Aries Girl Podcast.
Hello Zodiacs. Well, it's official. Love and Marriage St. Thomas has ended and everyone has returned to Huntsville from the girls' trip. However, most of the cast must have returned to a parallel or alternate universe, because there was definitely an alternative reality and an alternate narrative being spun with a ton of alternate facts. Or should we just flat out say lies? Lies that steered people into scandal, just like the episode is entitled. The first example of this alternate reality is the park scene with old Marty Marr and Dusty Boots, also known as Destiny. Let's go ahead and enter the Twilight Zone. This scene was in another realm, with the lies told in narratives that they were both trying to spin. However, there were some inadvertent admissions of truth during this scene as well. Like Martel stating that his mom was watching the kids so he could meet up with Destiny. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in the motions that Martel has filed against Melody regarding custody, didn't he state that the kids could only spend time at the grandparents once every 3 months? So, I have to ask how often the kids are spending time with Marlene. It sounds like more often than every 3 months, but Martel has an issue when the kids spend time with Miss Van. Talk about double standards. Now, we wish Destiny's dad superior health as he deals with his battle with cancer, but can someone please tell me why this delusional woman claimed that she had rented a production space for her products? Isn't Destiny just selling white label products like Stormy? We've seen that broken candle on Alibaba, but if Destiny claims to be making her own candles now for DV while sitting next to someone who has been convicted of DV, more power to her. Also, who does Destiny think she's fooling by saying that Madani switched to e-commerce during COVID in her confessional? Everyone knows that girl could not pay her rent for Madani in that retail space, and was forced to leave. What was the purpose of having Martel ask Destiny about the girls' trip? Did he just want info on Melody? Also, as much as Destiny lies, why would Martel think that the conversation with Destiny could be trusted? Especially since many of the lies that Destiny is repeating about Melody's interactions with the paramour were given to her by Martel. The lies they told were quite comical and actually left me wondering if they were under the impression that the viewers of the show had short attention spans and were not able to go back and view previous episodes to debunk their lies. You had to love how Martel insinuated that Melody wanted to catch him with the paramour for gossiping purposes. Here's a pro tip for all of the spouses who cheat in their marriage: when your wife or husband is in contact with your side piece, it is more than likely to get the evidence they need to present to a divorce attorney for proof of adultery. It's not just for idle gossip. Like Martel tried to say, I'm not telling you what I heard, I'm telling you what I know from experience. But Destiny, saying to Martel that Melody was so nice to her after she accused Melody of teaching the paramour to respectfully cheat, made me do a double take. Like, Destiny girl, you were the one apologizing to Melody, telling her that you loved her and that you were sorry. But keep spinning that narrative, sis, because Martel is eating it up. People with common sense knew that Destiny was projecting her issues of being 2 and 3-faced onto Melody in her confessional. There's a difference between having many faces like Destiny and being multifaceted like Melody. Catch that tea. I found it funny that Destiny and Martel tried to rewrite history as it pertained to Trisha going to quote-unquote train Martel in Melody's house. While Melody and Martel were still married, Melody moved out because God said go, not because she was entertaining other men. These lies need to stop. But wasn't it funny that Martel said in his confessional that he invited Trisha over, not knowing her relationship status? What if Trisha was dealing with a man who was jealous, controlling and quick with his hands? You know the type. Someone that likes to follow people and pop up at their location uninvited and unannounced. Anything could have happened. Martel should be thanking his lucky stars. But it's good to know that Martel thinks that Trish should have rolled with his lies at Stormy's house when he was acting like he was meeting her for the first time. Remember what Martel had just told Destiny at the top of the scene about Melody not respecting girl code? Well, here he is, breaking the guy code by telling Destiny that both Marceau Luther King Jr. and Maurice Luther King Jr. both cheat on their wives. Talk about double standards and outright hypocrisy. But thanks to Martel for martelling us what we already knew. Maurice and Marceau are also both 304ologists like Martel, Ken, and Trisha are. Destiny. Martell isn't lashing out. Confession is good for the soul, even if you are confessing other people's sins. And of course, you'll support married people doing whatever, especially since you did whatever in your marriage, which led to Liberic filing for divorce. And if you support people loving who they love and how they love, that would also include Sunny and Moses, right? But I digress. Let's move on to the next scene so Nell can tell us how she's in her feelings over a missing piece of paper. In Lurnale's confessional, she stated how she needed to talk to Melody in person about how she felt regarding the trip. We can sum part of this scene up quickly by reiterating that Nell Fletcher is too damn old to be acting this childish, especially when Nell is a self-proclaimed counselor/advisor/mentor.
Flashback.
I guess Melody can thank Chris and Nell Fletcher for the advice they gave to Melody and Martell. In a nutshell, Martell was supposed to own what he did, and Melody was supposed to compromise. Perhaps Chris meant Melody needed to compromise her values and standards, which is why she stopped taking their advice, which essentially that's all it really was, just advice from friends, because Melody wasn't trying to compromise herself to remain married to a cheater. Melody checked Nell in real time by stating that she had a therapist, a mother, and that she also had God. Even in her confessional, Melody gave Nell credit for being a listening ear at times, but Melody's definition of a mentor was someone who guides you in relation to business, and Nell Fletcher hasn't served Melody in that aspect as a mentor. So, there you have it. In this scene, Melody called Nell out for the interview that she and Chris did with Crystal XO, where Nell said some things that she shouldn't have, especially about someone she claims to be friends with. Long story short, don't say or do things on camera that you wouldn't say or do in your friend's face. Also, learn how to say, no comment, when someone asks you questions that you have no business answering. Let them know that you are there to talk about what is going on in your life. In the next scene, the powers that be did a montage of some cast reactions to Maurice's DUI, and I must say that I was surprised and hurt to hear the Melody lost her grandmother to a drunk driver. I was also shocked that Nell Fletcher thought that black men should do the time if they did the crime, because I was under the impression that they bailed their son out of jail on his recent arrest for theft. Apparently, some people felt the need to reach out to Trisha. I'm not sure why they did, but whatever. Maybe it was because she was down to the bar with the Scotts. And then, we get to the Maurice Luther King Jr. confessional, with the attempt to sound profound, and failing miserably. All that Maurice really did was talk in circles and state the obvious. Everybody knows that he was arrested for a DUI, but thanks for sharing that you first called Kimberly, your wife. I mean, Kimmy is the one person that fools with you, who has enough collateral to put up for your bond. And thanks for the cliffhanger, after a producer asked Maurice if he was worried about getting backlash from Kimmy for his arrest. And of course, in her confessional, Kimberly told us that from being a nurse, her first thought is of the hospital when she can't get in contact with someone, and we were left with another confessional cliffhanger after a producer asked her if she was still with Maurice, no matter what, after his DUI arrest. What I want to know is why. Why did Maurice feel the need to do the most irresponsible thing ever? Why drive after drinking instead of calling an Uber or taxi? But thanks for telling the viewers that you've never had any encounter with the police, Maurice, even though not many people will believe that statement. And as soon as we get into the scene, the main thing we get from Kimmy is her asking Maurice how he is doing. What the hell? Because Maurice just flips the script and asks Kimmy how she is doing. Maurice, my dude, you should have called or texted your wife to let her know where you were going when you left Black Cigar Lounge. It doesn't matter if Maurice was headed to a random side chick's house, or his office at Credit One, which no one is sure if he actually owns. And when Maurice left that undisclosed location, he should have texted or called Kimmy once again to let her know that he was on his way to the house or somewhere else. When Kimmy claimed that she thought Maurice fell asleep at work, I had to call BS. Really, is that part of Maurice's norm? If so, if Kimmy likes it, I most definitely love it for her. I almost felt bad for Kimmy for getting in her car and searching for Maurice, stopping by his job, and then worrying if he's 100% forthright with her and that she can't help what she doesn't know. Then I remembered how she treats Maurice and that marriage as if it is the ultimate prize, and I went back to giving zero fucks. I said what I said. And of course, Maurice doesn't know if Kimmy can quote-unquote help him. What the hell? This is giving a serious don't ask, don't tell tease that I just wasn't prepared for. When Kimmy went back into her confessional, what she said didn't serve her. She just sounded like her marriage wasn't all it was cracked up to be, with her reading more into certain situations than necessary, and all that Maurice essentially does is think about the situation without verbalizing his thoughts. But however, she claims they are there for one another. I guess so, Kimmy. Better you than me, and trust me when I tell you that it couldn't be me, but keep trusting the process. Maurice claimed that a lot of people were going to be disappointed with his arrest. Duh. But thanks, Captain Obvious. So much more could have been done with this scene, but a huge opportunity was missed. At this point, I'm just thankful that Kimmy and Maurice didn't make Melody and Martell the subject matter for their scene. What a waste of camera time. Kimmy and Tisha have so much in common. They are both married to men who don't always respect the sanctity of their marriage. The Scott brothers act as if they are the prize in the marriage and that their wives are lucky to have them. And when Kimmy and Tisha question their husbands, they morph into Maurice Luther King Jr. and Marceau Luther King Jr. And they start talking in circles and subliminals, never giving a straight answer, just talking to hear the sound of their voices and trying to say something profound because they know that their wives are falling for it. The Scott wives turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to the disrespect doled out by their husbands, all for the sake of being able to say that they are married. Kimmy is much older than Maurice, and the odds of her getting pregnant are pretty slim. So please explain to me why Maurice needed to get a vasectomy along with his brother Marceau, because it sounds like he was worried about getting women other than Kimmy pregnant. And why would a faithful husband need to worry about something like that? Yet, Kimmy and Tisha both look down on Melody because she wasn't willing to turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to the foolishness and fuckery that Martell was trying to dole out. Given that, nothing allows me to feel sorry for women who are willing participants in BS. Kimmy and Tisha signed up to be Stepford wives, so they need to continue playing their roles. Meanwhile, Melody is living her best life. Now that I'm done ranting about the Scotts, let's get into this next scene with two additional people who don't respect the sanctity of marriage, Ken and Trisha. They both irritate the hell out of me, so let's hit it and quit it with this scene. This adulterous couple go into confessional to tell us all about the house that they moved into 6 months ago and try to explain why the garage is so junky. Who cares? The only thing I'm concerned with is, did these fools purchase this house or rent it? Because as a married woman, Trish would be an idiot to sign a mortgage loan with a man who isn't her husband. Granted, the fact that she has a side dude and a whole husband proves that she's already an idiot in my opinion. It's cute that they want to throw a party for the kids for their accomplishments, invite whatever castmates you want for whatever reason, and even congratulate Maurice for being bailed out of jail after getting that DUI. Thanks Ken and Trisha for throwing Marquez under the bus by claiming that you all paid for his gas money so that he could attend his son's graduation. That was classy as hell. If Ken was truly the bigger person, they never would have disclosed that information. And yes, Ken, thanks for coming to the son's graduation, because you are not the father. You're just the professional side dude, Ken. That's why Mark has thanked you for coming. Since Trisha is a whole married woman, with a whole husband, and a whole live-in side dude, everything about her says 304-ologist. Why is she surprised that people have something to say? Her entire situation is a hot mess. There was never even a legal separation between Trisha and Marquez, so why is she surprised that Marquez was surprised that she wants to end things officially? And how surprised could Marquez have been if he was the one who showed up with the divorce papers that Trisha fake signed at the restaurant without a notary public present? This entire scene in the garage is giving scripted reality, because Trish admitted that Marquez was supposed to get the divorce papers signed and notarized with her after their son's graduation. So what was the restaurant stunt about? If Trisha is telling the truth, then it proves that Marquez wasn't 100% committed to getting a divorce. Again, Ken needs to catch a clue. There's no need for Ken's confessional saying that it is frustrating dealing with Marquez. Marquez is married to Trisha, not Ken. Again, catch a clue, Ken. Their marriage doesn't concern you. If Trisha wanted the divorce, she could have filed herself through the courts years ago. Yet, she hadn't done so. Ken, my dude, she's just not that into you. So it's on to the next scene. Anything is better than Trisha and Ken, so we meet up with Nell and Chris Fletcher at the dance studio where they will practice their moves for their vow renewal. But did we really need a scene with Nell regurgitating her entire conversation with Melody to Chris? Also, I'm not sure why Chris said that they don't talk about Melody and Martell. They were clearly the topic of the conversation in the interview the Fletchers did. And when Nell is in her feelings, my goodness, she tends to stay there. I get that Nell and Chris were under the impression that they mentored and counseled Melody and Martell. And I also get that Melody saw Nell and Chris as friends who listened to both her and Martell and gave them marital advice. Both can be true. Nell and Melody will have to agree to disagree, and Nell needs to stop dragging this out on my television screen. Also, Nell can keep her do-girl narrative. Miss me with that foolishness. When people have disagreements or fall out with one another, they don't always come back. Sometimes, you have to keep people at a distance or cut them off completely when they show you who they are. At Nell's grown age, I'm surprised that she doesn't know this. But again, congrats on understanding that if black men commit crimes, then black men need to pay the consequences. And I will go on record once again to say that the Fletchers need to practice what they preach, and perhaps they should not have bailed their son out of jail on his last arrest. Congrats on 30 years of marriage, even though Chris was legally married to his first wife when you met him, Nell, and despite the fact that your first child with Chris and his last child with his first wife are only months apart. So, let's cha-cha into the final scene with Melody Shuri. Because there seems to be some truth to the Bell Collective's Letitia Pearson and her book about side pieces winning when it comes to Nell Fletcher. But let's move on. Carlos King needs to explain why the star of the show only appears in the last few minutes of the episode. Oddly enough, this last scene had the most substance. And it's where we found the doctors. That's right. Dr. Melody Shuri Rogers and Dr. Shanita Foster pulling up and showing up to give back to the community by serving food at another 7th Avenue Beauty-sponsored community dinner. The setup was really nice, and Melody and Shanita served spaghetti, rolls, and green beans to members of the community. Interesting that the Scotts and the other members of the cast didn't show up to support Melody with the event, yet Shanita came all the way from Atlanta. Melody thinks that the Scotts are circling the wagon after Maurice got his DUI and that they are just avoiding having the conversation. I tend to agree with Melody on this. Melody told Shanita that she always supports the events that other people have with her time and money, but they don't come to support her in the same fashion. So that's why she isn't interested in building friendships with people like that. I was actually shocked that Melody didn't contact Maurice after his DUI. Granted, I can't say that I blame her because I damn sure wouldn't have texted him, but when Melody told Shanita that she lost her grandmother to a drunk driver, I totally understood. Also interesting that Shanita asked Melody if she thought that Maurice had a drinking problem.
Flashback.
Melody told Shanita that they had always been drinkers and that Maurice had always been immature. Melody also said that Maurice wants to be looked at as a leader in the community, like the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Let's listen to this clip from a prior reunion.
Success, in spite of. Perseverance, in spite of. So the fact that we're all living dreams of ours, that were ideas at one time, is commendable.
What Maurice has always given Martin Luther King Jr. speeches.
Let me humble brag because I have always referred to Marceau and Maurice by adding Luther King Jr. to their names on my videos. This is because they always try to sound profound and prophetic, and they are always giving a damned speech where they are talking in circles instead of just making a succinct statement. I had totally forgotten about Melody saying this at a prior reunion. In her confessional, Melody stated that the group has let her down as far as living up to their potential. There's just mugshot after mugshot after mugshot. This isn't the original Black excellence that the show was supposed to be about, so Melody doesn't want her name grouped with everyone else's, and who can blame her? Please hit the like button if you enjoyed the video and subscribe to support the channel so that you never miss an episode of the Aries Girl podcast. And I will see you on the next video. Until then, take care.